Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am doing a new video on 2023. I think this is my last wrap-up video for 2023. Hopefully it's my last one. And this is the one where I'm going to come to you and talk to you about the makeup products that were on my list to purchase last year, but I skipped over them, and man, am I glad I skipped over them. So I hope that sounds like something that you're interested in watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I'm a lover of all things high-end colorful beauty and self-care. I also work at Ulta Beauty as a field leader, so I get a lot of education in my position, and I like to bring you that education here. But ultimately, just out here talking about makeup because I like to talk about makeup, and I'm assuming you do too, so let's do the thing. Let's be friends here on this channel and talk about some makeup together. Okay, so none of these things are in my collection, thank goodness. So I think I'm going to scooch over here so that I can put pictures up next to me on the things that I'm talking about, and also in no particular order. Like I just went through, Trend Mood has all the pictures for items that came out for the year. Like I save items into my new makeup releases folder on my Instagram so that I am able to either come to you with a new makeup releases video, which I have never been organized enough to do, or talk to you about them in this video because they were things that I had piqued my interest in some way, things that maybe I was going to pick up, but things that I didn't pick up, and I'm glad that I didn't pick up. So I have kind of a list going. It's not a all-inclusive list, but these are the things that I really remember thinking, man, I should pick that up, and then didn't. So let's start with this. This is the Huda Easy Bake and Snatch Pressed Powder. So I have been like a person who is really, really interested in one of those pink under eye powders. Finally ended up picking up one at the end of the year, but just a little mini so that I could try it. But I am more of a pressed powder kind of girl. So this one is the one that I was going to pick up instead of the loose powder rendition. I just don't love loose powders, so I figured this one would be the easier way for me to test and experience the pink powders for under your eyes that everybody loved last year. This has gotten no less than, I swear, 100,000 poor reviews on the YouTubes. Almost everybody that picked up this powder that I know of, that I watch, has had nothing but awful things to say about this powder. I'm so glad that I hit the pause button, did not pick up this powder, because I would not have gotten the best experience possible out of a pink powder, and not being a powder girl in the first place, that would not have been a great time. The next one is this. This is the Urban Decay Quickie Concealer. Listen, I've heard really good things about this concealer. I really have. I mean, I still kind of think it looks amazing. I'm looking at it on my phone while I'm talking to you guys. But honestly, for me, I love that it has the brush on the end, the doe foot. I love that it does that. And I've heard really great things about this concealer. But I also know that the great things that I've heard about this concealer come from people who love a full coverage process in their base products. And I'm just not a full coverage girl. I am a medium at most kind of coverage girl. I really do like a lightweight, light feel, light coverage. Like skin tints are my favorite foundation product. Or if I do go up to a medium or a more full coverage kind of foundation or concealer, I like it to be serum-y or really just lightweight, to be honest. I did go ahead and swatch this in one of my stores, and that is so thick. So I'm super, super excited that I didn't pick this up. But man, if you are looking for full coverage, if you are looking for a concealer that is amazing, I've heard really good things about this concealer. It's just way too full coverage for me. The next thing is these Oden's Eye singles. Oden's Eye was on my list to, experience last year. I think these came out prior to the Perfect World collection with Lauren May and Betty Bean, and I think they came out prior to that, but if not, they came out right after that. And so I was just starting to get my feel for Oden's Eye, and I have a ton of singles and was going to purchase these singles. Angelica Nyquist did a video on them, and I was in love with the singles. But truth of the matter is that I never touch my singles. Never. I have $500 worth of Cleona Cosmetics singles, multi-chromatic singles in my makeup collection that I never touch. It was what I bought for Christmas for myself one year, and I was so excited about these singles, and I think I didn't touch them at all last year, except for to swatch them. I think that's all I did with them. So this year I am thinking about rolling my singles into my turn and burn, or really honing in on single uses during deck of panning also, because I just don't use them. So I'm really happy that I didn't pick up those Oden's Eye singles, because they were pretty, but they were also pretty expensive. The next thing on here is this Hip Dot and Evanescence Fallen palette. I am a Evanescence fan. One of my playlists on Apple Music is Angry Girl music, and it's what I work out to a lot, and Evanescence is in there. So I was really, really interested in this because of the pull at my heartstrings for Evanescence. However, this palette comes in what looks like a CD case, and I'm just wondering if that palette container is as flimsy as CD cases used to be. Do y'all remember? They used to fall apart like crazy. Initially, that's why I didn't pick it up, but also it's shaped like a CD inside. It is blues and grays and blacks, and I love me a blue and I love me a gray, but I just don't think that this palette would have been a very loved palette in my collection. And I've never experienced Hip Dot before. I do have a Hip Dot palette in my palette drawer of shame that I haven't tried yet, that is warm neutrals, that I do plan on trying, but I would hate for this to be my first experience with Hip Dot, and I have heard that these palettes were trash. So in addition to the fact that the packaging looked really shitty, I can't even imagine, but that palette is going for $125 on Mercari right now. Holy crap, right? Holy crap. The next one I have is the Nomad Love and Death. Nomad is a brand that I have a couple palettes from. I think I got one in BoxyCharm. I think I got both in BoxyCharm, actually. I think it's actually not called Love and Death. No, it is. It's the Verona Love and Death, right? It has the two different sides. So one side is really, really pinks, and one side is really blues, purples, grays. I just think that this palette probably would go really unused, and there's other Nomad palettes that I think I need more in my collection than that one. I do love it. I do think it's gorgeous, but I think that when I look at it, it's really not got reasons that are big about why I'm glad I didn't pick it up. Except for that, I do think that this is a palette that would come into my collection and that I would hesitate to use, because it's just not a color story that is different, right? Yes, it's got the blues and the purples mixed in with the pinks and the reds, but I've got plenty of that in my collection. It's not one that intrigues me, or even looking at it right now, that inspires me to do something with it. That isn't something that I can do with any other palette in my collection. I do have a couple of Nomad palettes on my list of purchases that I want to make, but that is one that I'm glad that I skipped over. The next one is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Blushes. Listen, these are still something that I want. As a matter of fact, I remember going shopping with my boss sometime in November timeframe, I think it was. And I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. And we were going to stop in Sephora, and I had these blushes on my list to look at to purchase. So this isn't one that I'm telling you I won't be purchasing, but this is one that I'm telling you I'm glad I didn't purchase last year because I went crazy with new blushes last year, and I just need to pause, get some use out of the new blushes in my collection, figure out what I can declutter. I need to seriously go through my blush collection, figure out which blushes are the same, which blushes are too similar, which one of those am I going to pull for first, and maybe just hone in my blush collection. I have one specific subscriber on my channel that talks about these blushes, and I want them so bad. I've heard nothing but good things about them. I need to first hone in my blush collection before I bring in such a glorious blush that I just don't think is going to see the usage out of it that it deserves. Another thing on here is the Lawless Lavender 1 palette. I have heard nothing but poor reviews about this palette, and I love Lawless lip filler lip gloss, but I haven't tried much else from Lawless. It's not that I don't want to, it's that everything that they bring out, I'm just not interested in, honestly, except for the lip gloss. And the lip gloss is really very good. So when they launched the Lavender 1 palette, I was like, that is beautiful. I need to pick that up. That is my Lawless palette. Even Steph from It's Stuff here on YouTube has like this deep affinity for Lawless Beauty, and she hates that Lavender 1 palette. So, I mean, said that she'd rather go outside and smash up sidewalk chalk and put on her eyes. So, so glad I missed that bullet. I have the Freck Beauty Face Hack Cream Bronzer on here. You guys, this looked so good when it launched. Like, I thought, that is so neat. What a clever idea. Oval shaped, really tiny, so it can get into the hollows of your cheeks. So it's like the perfect contour stick. It's not rounded. It's not going to get too far away from you. And then I watched a video that Lauren May did, actually, where she was trying on that product. It is the smallest stick of contour, and you pay, like, it's full-size prices, $18, and it's about this big. What? They probably last a long time. That would probably also last a long time. But I would be pissed off if I spent $18 at Sephora for this stick and it came to me in a mini size. It's like paying the full-size price for the Milk Makeup bronzer stick now, when it used to be so much bigger, and now it's like this. Speaking of Clionadh Cosmetics and the singles, now granted this is in the shape of a palette. It comes in its own palette, but the Clionadh Deep Sea Treasures palette is 8 shades of shadow. I love Clionadh Cosmetics. 8 shades of shadow for $93.50. Yes, I know. I have a lot of Clionadh shadows that cost me a grip ton of money, and I get that they cost a grip ton of money. But if you're going to put 8 shadows into a palette, even as an indie provider for shadows, like, you have to know that if you're putting them into a bundle, like, why should they not then have like a bundle price tag, right? I mean, you can purchase those individually and get them for the same price, I do believe. I don't know. I feel like this is where indie is going wrong. They could decrease the price on the palette and sell more of them and then reap more of a profit from those versus the single. I don't know. I don't know anything about making makeup, but I do think that $94 for an 8 shade eyeshadow palette is insane. But then I spent $85 on a Danessa Myricks one. So maybe I'm just talking out both sides of my face right now. That seems likely. Laneige Lemonade. I have Laneige sleeping masks, and I'm glad that I have Laneige sleeping masks, and these are beautiful, but really the only reason why I wanted this was for the swirl, the color swirl. They just came out with one in cotton candy, and I will be picking that up. That will be something that I own. Cotton candy is my favorite flavor on the planet, and it's in a Laneige lip mask, and it's got that swirl pattern. Heck yeah, I'm gonna own that. So I'm glad I didn't pick up this lemonade one, because I want to own the cotton candy one, and I would feel silly picking up a cotton candy one if I had just picked up a lemonade one. I have another Nomad Cosmetics palette on here, the Okavango palette. Now this is a palette that I think is stunning. It's brilliant, it's stunning, it's a beautiful color story, and I do want to pick it up. Green is my favorite color. But after that launched, or right around the same time, Natasha Denona launched her Yucca palette, and I love that Yucca palette. And if I had picked up both, I think that they would be competing for space in my heart. So I want my time frame with the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. I also know that the Natasha Denona palette would always come first in my mind. So I think actually that I probably won't pick it up, because the Yucca palette will always come first in my mind, and pick up something instead that I can't get from Natasha Denona. Like they have that Royal, what is it? Royal England, or whatever that one is called, with the row of multi-chromes down at the bottom of it. That one I'm more interested in. So I'll probably pick up that one. Not that their formulas are the same, because I don't think that they're the same, but I do like Nomad Cosmetics as a brand, and think that they have stellar thought processes in their palettes, and beautiful palettes. Did you guys see that one that they just launched? Holy cow, it's so beautiful. I also am glad, though, that I did not pick up the Natasha Denona Mini Starlit palette, because I found out through Steph on It's Just Steph that that palette doesn't have any shades in it that are not already in her line somewhere, and I have all of her palettes. I have her Star palette, which is what was drawing my attention to the Mini Starlit palette. I went through and looked at every single shade that that palette has, and I have every single shade that palette has. So I'm really glad that I didn't pick that one up. You do have to be careful with Natasha Denona's minis, because sometimes those do have duplicates within her line. So just words of wisdom for you. The Too Faced Cosmic Crush collection, not so much the collection, but the palette. Listen, I have the Too Faced Natural Nudes palette that comes in the same thought process as far as like structure goes. It's got cardboard packaging, it's really thin. This one did draw my attention as far as color story goes, but I've heard nothing but poor reviews on that palette, except for Morgan Turner, and I do trust Morgan Turner. I have swatched it. I mean, it swatches like a Too Faced palette. Too Faced is also not a company that, you know, I ever side-eye, and this was one thing from them that I side-eyed, so I did want it, but I'm glad I didn't pick it up, because the reviews out there just don't seem to be positive. Okay, some things that were more towards the latter half of the year, I do believe. We have the Lancome Louvre collection palette that is gorgeous, but I wanted it so dang bad, but I didn't pick it up because I feel like it's just one of those palettes that would not see very much use in my collection. The biggest reason why is because of the art that it is. Like, it is a Louvre palette. It has, I think, the thinking man or something like that imprinted into each one of the shadows. You know, it is a face on the shadows. I'm sure that you can see that in the picture that I'm showing right now. It's beautiful. And I think that because it's beautiful, I would not want to use it. And it was expensive. So I'm really glad I didn't pick that up. In addition to that palette, right around the same time was the ABH Fall Romance. Now, I actually have a video that I did trying to dupe that palette because I wanted that palette so bad, but it looked very, very dark. And I have every single one of the ABH palettes that ever launched since I've been in the beauty industry. So I have something like 17 ABH palettes right now. I even stuck with them when they were launching launch after launch after launch. I don't think that there's been a palette that I missed since the Makeup by Mario collab with them, but I wasn't even in the makeup space at that point in time. I did want this for two reasons, right? The collector mentality within me, and because it was a beautiful palette. I loved the packaging of it. It was a beautiful burgundy component, and the inside of it just looked gorgeous. But I think because of the purple burgundy on the outside, it looked very purple burgundy on the inside. And when I duped the vibes of it, it was just such a dark palette that I know I would not get any use out of, and probably wouldn't actually even like. So really happy I didn't purchase that one, instead tried to dupe it. I think I'm going to do more of that this year as we see, you know, some of these palettes like surface. I'm never going to be a minimalist, but my collection is quite large and I could use some duping the vibes versus some let's go out and buy it. So the last couple things I have on my list of things that I'm glad I did not purchase, two things that are kind of in the same realm came out at the same time. The Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette and the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3 palette, all matte eyeshadow palettes. The Danessa Myricks one I think would be a palette that I could still see myself purchasing because it has not only the powders but also has the creams for the same shade. And if you guys saw my best of 2023, which I filmed just a few minutes ago, so if this looks familiar, it's because it should be. The Groundwork palette is one that I could see myself purchasing at this point because it has the powders and the creams, because I feel like it would be more multifaceted and variety of use than the Patrick Ta one, but these are all matte. I love matte. I love matte eyeshadows. I only use like the shimmers on my lid space, maybe my inner corner, but for the most part, my eye looks are 90% matte. So I'm into a matte eyeshadow palette, and both of those were on my list, and both of those are so expensive. With that said, I don't know that I need to spend the money to get these palettes because they would be a companion palette at best for me, and I really do like a palette that is a one and done palette for me, that I can get multiple eye looks out of one palette. That seems like it's also probably ridiculous to think about a palette through the lens of one and done for me because of my large collection. If I were a normal, regular Joe Blow consumer, a one and done palette would be what I was looking for, and one day maybe I'll be that again, and neither one of those palettes would be a one and done eyeshadow palette for me. I have all of the Glamlight Halloween collections on here because I really did see myself purchasing one or more of them, but you know, I'm glad I waited to decide which one after they were all launched, because at that point I was bored of it and really didn't think that I needed any of them. And when I look across the gamut of them, I feel like I've got enough of those kind of shades in like my Natasha Denona Xenon palette, or even my Glamlight Chucky palette, or you know, I feel like I have enough of those kind of shades with me. The only thing that still calls my name is that highlighter that came with, I think it was the Friday the 13th one. But that packaging is so big and I just don't need another highlighter. So I'm really glad I paused on that. And sometimes that's all you need, is just to take a pause. With that said, I also had the Tom Ford Soleil Neige highlighter on here, and again, I do not need another highlighter, and that one is 90 bucks. Do you have that highlighter? I think that there's one or two of you that watches me that probably has that highlighter. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, because that highlighter still eats at my soul. With that said, that is all I have for the makeup that I am glad I skipped in 2023. Again, these were products that were launching, and as they were launching, I was like, I need to purchase that. And the money I saved by not purchasing them, again, there's a couple of products on here I could still see myself purchasing. Those Giorgio Armani blushes, I will have one one day, maybe this year, who knows. I've made a deal with myself. If I do purchase another blush this year, one of the blushes that I have in my collection is coming out. So in my collection videos that you will see hopefully coming soon, I'm still working through them, but I will have whole collection videos coming out. You will see that some of these blushes that I thought were amazing, that I have hoarded in my collection for a long time, will be coming out of my collection because I've only given myself 5 purchases. I don't want my blush collection to go up by any more than 5 this year. The way I like blushes, I'm gonna have to get rid of some of the ones that I do own, and I know that there is an awful lot in my collection that I do not wear. So those Giorgio Armani blushes will probably show up in my collection at some point, but just not right now. I don't think anything else on here. Maybe one of the Patrick Ta or Danessa Myricks palettes. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? There's not much else on this that I can think of that I will pick up. Like, nothing on this list still is calling my name, pulling at my ears, except for those items, those blushes, and those 2 palettes. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I hope that you enjoyed it or me enough that you'll want to subscribe before you go. I really would like to be friends with you. Please join my fam. And with that said, I hope that, you know, the season is treating you all kindly. I hope that you and yours are well, that you're safe, that you're healthy, and that you're getting along as best you can. That you are all loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends.